Passionate Podcast. It's Jaren. I hope you all are doing well. So I've got a new style of episode for you today, and it's a review. I decided to listen to Drake's album because when his album dropped, I think about 2 weeks ago, Sexy Songs For You, when he dropped it, I'm like, it would be a really, really good idea because I'm familiar with a lot of, let's just say, music content creators who listen to albums like ASAP and then they review them. I wanted to listen to it a few times before giving just my true thoughts. I listened to the album from start to finish twice and listened to a few songs multiple times. And so, really, before I dive into, kind of just talking about, just Drake as a whole, I just want to mention that if you hear a lot of wind, it's just because where I'm from, it has been very, very windy the past few days, and there is nothing I can really do about that. But before talking about this album, I figured I would talk about my favorite Drake songs just in general. So I have 1 to 5, pretty much these are my top 5 favorite Drake songs, even though that 2 of these have, there's some features in the song. So number 1 on my list is Headlines. Love that song. Number 2 is the Motto, well, with Lil Wayne, in which the remix I believe has Tyga in it. Both versions are great. Do Not Disturb off More Life. All Me, which I believe 2 Chainz and Big Sean are in that song, if I'm thinking correctly. But regardless, that song is one of my favorite Drake songs of all time. Number 5 is Worst Behavior. And so, kind of honorable mentions, just a few songs that were kind of just outside of my top 5 of all time. The honorable mentions, I don't really have a proper order for. Energy, Marvin's Room, Fake Love, and Champagne Poetry. I'd say those are my favorite, Drake songs of all time. And if I had to say, the one thing all of these songs pretty much have in common is that it's pretty much really Drake rapping. And this album, it's a rap R&B album, whatever you want to call it. And I'd say that I'm definitely more of a fan of, the rapping Drake. I love the R&B Drake. I do. I just like the rapping Drake more. That's just my personal preference. And so this album had 21 songs. Also, I need to mention this now. It's a Drake and Party Next Door collab album. And let me add that in there now. It's a collab album. So it being, an R&B rap album, it makes sense. So for each song, I kind of graded on a scale of 1 to 10. Let's just say 0 to 4. Let's just say it's bad. That's just on my scale. It's going to be bad. We'll say 5 and 6 are just going to be kind of okay, but they're closer to the bad. 7 and 8 are good, while 9 and 10, perfect song, wouldn't change a thing. That's kind of was my thought process as I was listening to it. And the first time I listened to it, I didn't really say any notes on the song. I kind of just let the song hit me because I felt like that was the best way I could give a natural reaction. And then the second time took some general notes. So I think naturally I'm just not a very critical person. So I don't really have too many critiques about each individual song. But I'm just going to go in order from the songs and then just kind of say my scale. First song, CN Tower, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good start to the album, and I had heard it on TikTok. Don't really have too much to say about it. Mothballs. Ironically, the first time I listened to it, I didn't think much of it. But the second time, I got hooked. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Great song. And originally on my first listen through, Something About You was my favorite, but it changed second time around. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I didn't really have much reasoning behind why it's an 8 out of 10. It just was an 8 out of 10 to me. Crying in Chanel. Love this song. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I really love the beat switch. The way the beat switches in this song, I just feel like it was perfectly timed. And just him rapping was just my favorite part, which I'll definitely say I'm very biased in it because I feel like every song, for the most part, it's more R&B than rap. But there are a few songs that have a good, we'll just say, balance between the two. Spider-Man Superman, I'm going to say it's 6 out of 10. It's not bad. I just could not get into the song like the other songs, personally. Like this song, this was just not for me, personally. And also, this is a good time to say this, for any of you listening, and if you're like, dang, Jaren gave my favorite song a bad rating. Well, guess what? It is what it is. You'll live. Another song, Deeper, which crazy thing about this is I didn't realize that Drake wasn't really in the song that much until after. Party Next Door, I'd say, kind of dominated the song, which I'm saying dominated very loosely, just because, like, it just felt like more of his song. And then, like, yeah, it just felt like more of his song. Next, Small Town Fame, 8.5 out of 10. It had my favorite beat out of all of the songs on this album. I immediately started vibing to the lyrics. I enjoyed it. Even though that I'm not from a small town, or nor am I famous. Now, the only song I truly did not rate was Pimmy's Dilemma. It is not a bad song, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it. It almost feels like it's not supposed to be on this album. It's like it's supposed to be on one of Drake's older albums. Which also, just thinking of Drake albums as a whole, he had More Life, he had Certified Lover Boy, he had, I can't remember the name of the album off the top of my head, but it basically was just an album of him dropping TikTok songs. So it feels like Pimmy's Dilemma feels like it was a song that matched like Drake in like 2011, 2012 more. Like, I don't know how to probably explain that. Next up on the list, we have Brian Steele, 9 out of 10. I don't really have much explanation for why I just love the song so much. I just enjoyed it. Now, the song that has the best rating for me is Give Me a Hug. As a 9.5 out of 10. Is the perfect mix of rap / like R&B vibes. Drake first, fire. I love the beat switch and like mentioning Marvin's Room, because also just in general, when I think of Drake songs, like in general, from, if you want to include like, let's just say like mixtapes or whatever, the very first Drake song that comes to mind for me is On Me. That's just my own bias, because when I was younger, I'd always used to rap the crap out of that song. But I would imagine the more popular answer's got to be either just Hold On, We're Going Home, or Forever, or Best We Ever Had. Those are probably the first three songs that most people who are fans of Drake probably would listen to. Might not listen to. That's probably the first song that comes to their minds. Another song on this album, Raining at Houston, which for a moment, it was my favorite song, but I kind of felt Give Me a Hug, I like that a little bit more. Raining in Houston, 9 out of 10. I feel like this is a song I would listen to often. I feel like I would go out of my way to play this song. And I feel like for me, and this isn't just for Drake, this is for anybody, if I'm going out of my way to play a specific song, it's a great song. Like, for example, a song that lately I had been going out of my way to play is 20 Minutes by Lil Uzi. That's my personal favorite Lil Uzi song of all time. I just love that song. Like, cannot explain it. Just love that song. Another song I go out of my way to play is Who Shot Cupid by Juice WRLD and Great Gatsby by Rod Wave. I could be driving to work and I will go out of my way to try to play this song at least once. That is a long list of songs I'd go out of my way to play. Those are just a few. Next on the list is 7.5 out of 10 for Lasers. It does give me old Drake Lover vibes, but that's a good thing. It's a very, very good thing, because there are people who, they don't like the tough Drake, which I get it. And there's the, kind of like Lover Drake, which, Drake, I feel like throughout all of his albums, early he was the lover boy Drake. I'd say kind of the middle of Drake's, we'll just say Rain, kind of the tough boy Drake. And then with this album, it might be like he's trying to go back to the lover boy Drake, at least maybe just a little bit. I'm not gonna say he full on went back to like the lover boy, but it's just kind of some of the vibes that I felt. And let me know down in the comments right now at this point, what is your favorite song on this album? Did you like it? So for the next song is Meet Your Padre, which I need to brush up on my Spanish, because, or just also look up the lyrics online, because I feel like I would appreciate this song more if I was reading the lyrics to this song, because I understand Spanish better than I speak it. And some of when they're speaking Spanish, there were more basic phrases to an extent, but I feel like if I was to read it, I'd appreciate it a little bit more. So I need to go back and kind of read it and also just brush up on my Spanish in general. And I probably would appreciate this song more. But as of right now, I'm just going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Which again, this song is not bad. I just think that this is one of those songs that just does not apply to me, and that is okay. But then this can easily change because I feel like with a lot of albums, like you might not like them when they first drop. Then 2, 3 years from now, you might have greater appreciation. Like I'll give you an example. I can't tell you how many times growing up, like I'm singing Drake lyrics, not even knowing what they mean. That within the last 5 years of my life, I'm like, oh crap, that's what he's saying. Like because I understand. So Meet Your Project, I easily see that 2, 3 years from now, I'd have a greater appreciation for it just because I lived more life. Also, no pun intended, because he's got an album called More Life. Next song, which this is definitely the song I've seen the most on social media, specifically TikTok, Nokia. Specifically the first verse. I cannot tell you how many times I saw like the caption be something like Drake's at his best when he's making music for the girlies, which I just thought, I mean, you're kind of not wrong with that statement. But this song also, to me, it didn't feel like it belonged on this album. It kind of gave like more life kind of vibes. I don't know, like maybe not more life, but it just, this song, it's a great song. I just feel like on this album, it's like I feel like you can put it on a past Drake album and it would work out. Die Trying, it's weird because again, it felt more like a pop song to me. It didn't really feel like an R&B song to me. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Also, I gave Nokia an 8 out of 10 if I didn't say that. Party Next Door and Yebba, I feel like impacted the song more to me, even though Drake was singing the hook. He had some other lines in the song. I kind of just felt like, the meme where it's like you get a group project and like you were just there. Like for me, Drake didn't really, I guess Party Next Door and Yebba, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry. I feel like they just impacted the song more to me. Somebody Loves Me, the next, also 7 out of 10. Really just a great vibe. I don't really have much into that, which this goes into Celibacy. Also 7 out of 10. Great transition into the song. Like, I feel like a lot of the songs on this album were just very, very well placed. Like, I feel like if you change the order of some of these songs, like, yes, it might improve it. But at the same time, would it make it worse? That's the question that I feel like people have to ask themselves. Somebody Loves Me coming before Celibacy in this album, I think was a great decision. Because just the story that the song just tells, like the lyrics, I feel like it was perfect. And I feel like with the song Somebody Loves Me into Celibacy, it was just the perfect. Like if they were not next to each other and you listen from an album perspective, it would be so weird. And the crazy thing is, I'm not somebody who like, I can listen to like a whole album, like song for song, from song 1 to song 15. If that's how many songs are on an album. I think I've just always been more of a shuffle type of person when it comes to listening to music. Just because like my playlist, you might hear, Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD, then you might go into something way more upbeat. You might hear a Beyonce Single Ladies or something, like two completely different vibes, because my playlist is all over the place. And also, while I'm here at the 13, almost 14-minute mark, I'm going to leave it up to myself. The next album that I will review, I will have it be a video of it. Like, I feel like it'd be just a great idea of, I'll use this for example, this album for example. Let's just say, Somebody Loves Me. They're like on the screen, maybe I have like a certain kind of image, then with a song title, and then it just cuts back to me. I feel like that would be a great idea, and I want to think of a way to better execute that idea, because I've already gotten good with transitions when it comes to the podcast and just my YouTube channel in general. So, back to the album. On my way, 6 out of 10. I mean, I feel like at certain times in this album, Party Next Door and Drake's vibe, they just gave me two different vibes. It's almost like they were on two different vibes. Which, if it's meant to be that way, I understand it. It's just that, like, for me, it just felt like Party Next Door is giving me one vibe, and Drake is giving me, like, another vibe, which I feel like kind of conflicts, like, how I feel about it. And then, like, in this song and other songs, PND is more obvious with sexual lyrics. Don't get me wrong, Drake is very obvious throughout the album when it comes to this, but it's almost like Party Next Door is being more upfront, and Drake is, I guess, dancing around it. Like, yes, he's implying, you know, certain type of content. He's just not directly saying it. So again, there's nothing wrong with that. I just think with this album, the vibes that I got from Party Next Door and Drake, the way it's like, sometimes they matched up greatly, other times not as well. Which I mean, I get that. So with this song specifically, it just made me feel like weird, like just with their vibe just did not really match well to me with this song. We'll see if later in this year it'll change, because I think a good future episode can be, we're in February, it's the last day of February, and I can maybe do an episode in December, like looking back on 2025 music, and this will be the first album I come back to, because this is the first album I listened to from start to finish in this year. Look at me having all these great ideas. So for my next album, Glorious, which I give it an 8 out of 10. I'm not the biggest Ice Spice fan, but I feel like her being in this song was just great. And this is definitely the most sexual song on this album. And there's nothing wrong with that. And also because Drake, in like the Loverboy era, that, like who it is, like I'm thinking of Drake lyrics in my head right now that I'm not going to say them on the podcast, but for those who know, like, and the thing is, I could tell you two people right now, probably three. Now I'm gonna say four. I'm gonna say four people right now that definitely know music better than me, and I'll probably even argue that they know Drake better than me. In no order, including my sister Jalen, my brother Cameron, my friend Kevin, and also my friend David. And I'm speaking from they're gonna know music more than me, because, like, I think I have a pretty great knowledge of music, and like I definitely say my taste compared to all four of theirs. It's a little bit more mainstream, but I feel like I also do listen to a lot of artists that some of their music might not exactly be mainstream. So that's just I guess, a side, a little me rambling. But we're almost done with this album, surprisingly. I did not expect me to get through most of this, and we haven't even recorded for 20 minutes yet. When He's Gone, next song, I give it an 8 out of 10. It felt like a good mix of rap and R&B. Again, it felt just like a great placement for this song specifically. Like, again, I like that it's toward the end of the album. And then the last song, Greedy, I give it a 7 out of 10. I mean, other than just, I feel like it was the perfect song to end with, because like the last minute of the song, it's just like the beat, the music, the tune itself. I just feel like it was just a good song to end this album with. And also, I took another note to wrap this up. This, earlier today, when I was driving around, I was listening to music. I was listening to this, taking up some of my final thoughts. I put it on anything you want me to. The song that, when I went back to my normal playlist, the first song that played was Come and See Me by Party Next Door featuring Drake. In which, that's one of my favorite songs that the two of them have. And I'm sure there's a lot more that they've had not in this album, and maybe I'm just not aware with. So if there's any also just Drake songs or even Party Next Door songs y'all want to put me on to, just let me know. So now the important question: what's the top 5? Which, to be honest, you can maybe even make this a top 10. But I'll start with the honorable mentions this time. Mothballs, Die Trying, and Somebody Loves Me. Those are my 3 honorable mentions. The number 5 spot, I've got When He's Gone. I mean, it just was a good vibe. Like, I don't have too much reasoning for this. It was a great mix, rap and R&B, like I mentioned briefly earlier. And I just felt like I just vibed with the song. You know what I mean? The next song, I got Brian Steele, which I enjoy the rapping, which that's where some of my bias comes in with, me preferring Drake's rapping more so than, like the R&B. But again, both are great. Number 3, I'm going to say Small Town Fame, which, again, was in my debate for being like one of my favorite songs of his. And I'd say that the reason why is just because I love the beat, and like I just, from the moment it came on, I just felt like I just immediately started vibing with the lyrics. Like, for example, I was vibing more with Small Town Fame than I was with Glorious. Not to say that Glorious is a bad song. It's just I like the songs that I can relate to, and I'm not gonna say I relate to one song more than the other, but I could definitely say I related to Small Town Fame more than I relate to Glorious. Um, so another song really, the top two is tied between Raining in Houston and Crying in Chanel. I just love both of these songs. I think these are probably like it gave the most old Drake vibes out of the songs personally. So it was very hard for I could honestly put one of these at number one. I really, really could. But I mentioned earlier that "Give Me a Hug" was my favorite song off this album. Again, it felt like the perfect mix of rap and R&B. The first verse was fire. I love the beat switch. I just felt like everything in this song was perfectly done. And ironically, I remember when I was playing video games with Kevin, I think we were playing Ultra Rumble, and I was playing as a character. I was playing as Dobby, a character who basically gives hugs. And he had mentioned, I believe, that there's a song on Drake's album called "Give Me a Hug," and it's ironic that I remember that and connecting it to how this is my favorite song. So overall, I'm gonna give this album an 8 out of 10. I feel like I can vibe to a lot of the songs, and yes, I'm definitely biased in my style of Drake that I prefer. And I would say that it feels more like an R&B album, which is definitely not a bad thing. And if I had my biggest criticism that I can give, and there are certain people that are like, "Whoa, Jaren's about to give valid criticism," this album's way too long. Kevin had said it first, and I agree with it. This album is 21 songs. It's a little over an hour, which again, that's not like long in terms of like just an hour. It's long because it took me a while to fully listen to it because listening to 21 songs, it's just very intimidating. It's like it almost feels like more of a chore rather than doing it for enjoyment. Which don't get me wrong, I did it for enjoyment. Most of the time when I listened to it, I was driving. Yeah, there was a couple of times where like, I'm stopped and then I'm listening to it because I feel like when you're driving, depending on who you are as a person, but at least me, yes, I'll still understand and appreciate a song while I'm driving. But when you're stopped, you don't have to focus on anything else but the music. You might get another experience for it. And I think because of the 21 songs, the average person will definitely forget some songs on this album because you might pick say 2 3 songs on this album that you just really mess with and add to your own playlist. But then you hear maybe another Drake song on the radio. If there are people out there who still listen to the radio, you might be like, when did he make this? And then it'd be on this. I'm not sure if albums like Take Care, um, More Life, the collab album he had with Future, which I understand the Future, Drake, and Kendrick Lamar, which I'm surprised I made it 23 minutes without really mentioning them. But I'm not sure if either album that Drake has made ever has ever been this long. I'm sure there probably has been one that's either A, the same amount of songs, or B, the same amount of time. But yeah, I just think that some of these songs could have been added to like a deluxe version, which I feel like some of these songs could have helped a lot of the songs on this album age better. But that is just my take. But really, that's all I have for this album. Let me know some of your thoughts and let me know what you think of my ideas regarding future music albums. And if there's somebody you want me to listen to, in the future, if they're having an album, let me know in the comments down below. And the, I guess, only air quotes disclaimer I will add is I'm not the biggest country music fan. I can listen to it. I just don't enjoy it like I'll enjoy rap, hip hop, R&B, so on and so forth. So if you recommend me a country album, I'll listen to it, but the likelihood of me listening to it very quickly and very timely is lower. But I just want to thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. Peace.